South African Julliette Bryant has opened up about her very first encounter with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein in the mid-2000s. She has detailed how she met him in Cape Town along with former US President Bill Clinton. Bryant talks to us now about her 3 weeks encounter in America, beginning her traumatic experiences with Epstein. And she joins us now via our video link. Ms. Bryant, thank you so much for your time this evening. Maybe let's start off here. I mean, perhaps if you could give us, we know that this is a very sensitive topic and really traumatic for you. If you can just detail to us about your first encounter with Jeffrey Epstein.
Thank you so much, Mbali, and thank you for having me on tonight. What happened is, it was 23 years ago. I was 20 years old. I was a psychology and philosophy student at the University of Cape Town. I was doing modeling on the side, for income, and I got scouted, actually when I was 14, and then, later on I got scouted again. But what happened is I met a girl who, she approached me and she just said that her friend Jeffrey Epstein was here from America. He owned his own island in the Caribbean. She said he was like the king of America and he was here with Bill Clinton, Kevin Spacey and Chris Tucker. So it sounded like a completely legitimate opportunity. She also said that his best friend, Leslie Wexner, owned Victoria's Secret. So we went along to meet them at a restaurant where they're having dinner at Beluga in Prestwich Street by, in Greenpoint. And they all stood up while having dinner and shook my hand. They were having dinner with other government officials. I didn't meet all the government officials. And then basically the next day they invited me for a casting and also to watch a speech that Clinton was giving at the Western Cape Peninsula Technicon. And so I went to watch the speech. Kevin Spacey was filming everyone in the hall, filming all the students. I didn't realize why at the time. Afterwards, I went for the modeling casting and, some women posed as modeling agents. Bill Clinton walked through the room while they were hosting the modeling casting. And then I was sent in to see Epstein. He looked at my modeling book and he said, right, I think you'd be great for Victoria's Secret. So that was on the 26th of September 2002. Basically, within about 2-3 weeks, they'd arranged me a visa and a flight and everything to take me over to America. It was my first time traveling overseas. And basically, when I got there, there was a car waiting for me at the airport with my name on a board, a man waiting with my name on a board and like a black car. And they drove me to the modeling apartment on 301 East 66th Street. As soon as I walked in and put my things down, the phone rang, and it was Sarah Killen who worked with Epstein, and she said, pack things, we're going to the Caribbean. I obviously assumed it was for a modeling shoot or something, but, what basically happened is I was taken to his plane at Teterboro Airport, and as soon as the plane took off, he started, he made it very obvious that I was trapped, and it was very, very frightening. I quickly realized that my life was in great danger. And it just shattered me. I thought, oh my God, my family are never going to see me again. Because basically I'd been lied to. They conned me.
Yeah. And Julliette, I mean, you speaking of something really traumatic and talking about, you traveling from New York to the Jeffrey Epstein Island. How long did you stay on that island for?
Well, when we arrived there, we were only there for about like 5 days because these people, they moved around very quickly. We weren't told when we'd be traveling anywhere else. So what happened is, on the first day it was just me, then the next day another girl was brought in, and then more and more girls kept coming and going. So it was just, a very, very frightening situation to be in. I didn't have a phone or anything. And then from there we went to Palm Beach. To his property in Palm Beach, and then after that I was sent back to New York, and they sent me to have my hair made blonde and to make my teeth white. Then I was sent home. Before I was sent home, he told me that he worked for the CIA. He said he had my family's name on a list, and he told me a girl who accused him of rape, he planted drugs in her apartment and had her sent to prison. I was obviously petrified, coming from Africa. I'd never experienced anything like this in my life. And, and then they got me back there a few weeks later because, by that point I was so traumatized and broken down. And
Ms. Bryant, do you remember who you saw on the island or who you interacted with during that ordeal?
Well, that's the thing is, eventually they took me to all the properties. They took me to New Mexico, to Palm Beach, to Paris, New York, and to the island. And the thing is that I didn't meet any very famous people on the island or any of the other properties. I did meet Michael Bay, the movie producer in New Mexico. He was there. Otherwise, I met scientists, and there were a lot of girls coming and going, but I didn't see any girls being trafficked to other men. You know, that's why, as we all know, there's been a big cover-up here.
And of course, we know that you were threatened if you spoke out. Did you speak out at all to your family about what took place?
No, I only told one ex-boyfriend who I really trusted, but I never told anyone else until Epstein died. My family, my mum, my brothers, no one knew what had really happened. Not even my best friends or anything. I never told anyone.
And now that we see these Jeffrey Epstein files being released to the public, do you think that this is the justice that many of the victims like you have been hoping for?
Funny, it's a huge relief that the files have been released, but it's almost more shocking than like what I even realized. You know, there's a lot of stuff in there that's just horrific. And you know, just after I was given settlement money, I had time to sort of see therapists and get better and to detangle the horrible hold he had over me psychologically. And I started doing more research to try and figure out what these people did to me, because when I got back from there, I wasn't okay. You know, I had serious panic attacks. And, you know, I also realized I had to speak out for the victims who are no longer here, you know, and also victims who are too traumatized to speak. Because, as we know, these files are very dark, and, you know, it's very frightening. You know, what I've realized is that the public have become victims of this now, too. You know, the way it's been hanging over everyone for so long, and to have all this stuff released, it's a big shock. So it is a huge amount of vindication, because I've been trying to tell people this stuff for a long time, but I was almost hoping that it wasn't all true, the things I'd sort of come across. So it's been shattering. Yeah. So thanks for asking.
And what are your hopes now that we have seen that there are many people linked to the Jeffrey Epstein files? Do you think that, you know, they need to be held accountable for what they've put people like you through?
Absolutely. They all need to be held accountable. There's no more hiding anymore. I'm very, very grateful that more information has come out, and I just hope that they're all held accountable. I hope that action is taken. You know, but I don't think any of these people should go out in public again after these files being released. I think that basically they've been caught, but we now need to see people in positions of authority to holding them accountable.
All right. Ms. Bryant, thank you so much for your time. That's Julliette Bryant, the South African, also a survivor of the Jeffrey Epstein, of course, encounters there, and some of the details coming out from the Jeffrey Epstein files, and of course talking to us about her experience, how she was scouted in Cape Town 23 years ago and was lured into becoming a model, but found herself in America and a number of islands and some of the homes of Jeffrey Epstein, and of course talking about her traumatic experiences from being in the company of those who have now been named in the Jeffrey Epstein files.